Nissan, Honda, Nissan going after Honda. Is this a pragmatic deal, Carlos, or a desperate roll of the dice?
No, in my opinion, it's a desperate move. It's not a pragmatic deal because, frankly, the synergies between the two companies are difficult to find. There is practically no complementarity between the two companies. They are on the same markets. They have the same products. The brands are very, very similar. So in a certain way, from one side, Nissan, it's a desperate move to try to find the future. And from the other side, Honda.
Well, there you have it. From Carlos Ghosn himself, he thinks that this whole Honda-Nissan merger is a terrible idea. And he goes on to say that Honda is probably being forced to do this. And he is right about that. In case you guys don't know who Carlos Ghosn is, by the way, he was at the head of Nissan for quite a long time. He went to, or was detained by the Japanese government for allegedly stealing millions of dollars from the Nissan Corporation, which was never really confirmed or denied by anybody. But this is very interesting that he actually had to flee Japan after being the boss of Nissan for quite a while. And it's because Nissan and Renault were in effectively a merged company, and they were merged for quite a while, the Renault, Nissan, Mitsubishi alliance, as it is today. And I think it's very interesting to hear the guy that was in charge of the whole thing say that it was a terrible idea. And so in today's video, we're going to show you guys how I think that's wrong. I think that's incorrect and inaccurate. I'm going to show you exactly what Honda tends to gain from this merger. I think it's pretty awesome that this is happening, and not many people are really talking about it. So I feel like this would be good information for you guys to kind of figure out, because even you guys in my previous video that I did about this, in the comments, were saying how you really don't want to see Honda do this. And I think you guys are not seeing the big picture for what it could be. And so we're going to really dive deep into this. In case you guys are new here, my name is Elias. You're watching the Flying Gato YouTube channel. Let's go ahead and get started and see what Honda tends to gain from Nissan and Mitsubishi. And so the first thing that Honda needs is more capacity to build their cars. For the last 3 or so years, Honda has really been hampered by its manufacturing capacity. People really want to buy the cars that they make. For example, the Honda Civic Type R is always on back order. Everyone wants to buy one. There's never enough. That's why there's huge dealer markups on them. And it's insane that such a sought-after car is difficult to make because they don't have the capacity. At the same time, they have to build the Civics, the Accords, they have to build the Pilots, they have to build all the Acura models. It's a lot of manufacturing. And Nissan has a ton of manufacturing that is not doing so well, so they're mostly idle right now. 3 of them in the United States, which is really important. And the first thing I'll say is that also the Trump tariffs that are coming into effect, if you're not manufacturing in Japan, Canada, Mexico, or the United States, you're going to be in trouble, because Japan has a really decent deal made with actually the previous Trump administration. Canada has a deal with the previous Trump administration that they're trying to renegotiate, and Mexico also has a deal with Trump's previous administration. That's all going to be renegotiated, obviously, but it's still beneficial to be a part of those 3 countries. And if you build in the United States, you're going to have a lot of access to the U.S. market, tariff-free. Nissan adds 3 locations, big locations, in Mississippi, Tennessee, and 2 of them in Tennessee, that are going to add to Honda's ability to manufacture vehicles and the vehicles that people want to buy. They also have manufacturing in Japan. And so they have quite a few plants. They have 6 plants in Japan that are all high quality plants. Anything that's built in these plants is really good. They have the Tochigi plant, the Yokohama plant, the Opama plant. These are all great plants. They build the engines, they build transmissions, and they're all great. And so that would be a big deal for Honda to get. Again, Honda's almost always constrained by supply on selling their most sought-after vehicles, like the Honda Pilot, the CR-Vs, their Honda Civics, obviously a really hot seller, the Civic hatchbacks. They can't get enough supply out there to keep people as happy as they want. Everyone wants to buy a Civic hatchback hybrid, for example. It's getting difficult to make them. And so that's a really big deal. The next thing is the lineup. It's a pretty big lineup. Honda has a big lineup. And just to reiterate, Honda's Pilot's the biggest car they make. and that's alongside the Ridgeline. It's their pickup truck. It can only tow up to 5,000 pounds. We have the Nissan Armada. This would be a sweet, sweet addition to Honda's lineup because it tows up to 8,500 pounds. It is a little bit expensive, but they can take this and it will really add to Honda's lineup and be able to sell more vehicles because it'll just take up more market share. Honda has no car that takes up that market share of around 8,000 to 9,000 pounds of towing, 3-row family SUV. Currently, the Chevy Tahoe and the GMC variants are the top selling versions. Armada is kind of struggling to compete, but it's there and it exists. And the newest one is basically a Nissan Patrol with some Nissan badging on them and some rebadging on them to bring them to the United States. I think it's going to be a great vehicle. And if Honda can pay attention to it and try to cultivate its reliability and make sure everything works well and the processing and everything is done right, I think Honda will have a great hit. Even if they just take that and rebadge it to Honda as well to sell it in their dealerships, I think that'll be a good idea for Honda. So there's the Nissan Armada. I think that's a great car that Honda currently doesn't have and never really had. Then we have, of course, the Nissan Z. That's for me as a car enthusiast, that has me the most excited because this is the sports car that Honda doesn't have. They have had a rear-wheel drive sports car 3 or 4 times in their entire lineup and entire career, at least in America, and it's basically the S series, the S800, the S600, which is tiny little small roadsters, and obviously my Honda S2000. It was a great sports car made the Honda way. Rear-wheel drive, nice high revving 4-cylinder engine, and it'd be really cool if Honda just took the Nissan Z and put in the Type R engine. That's all you need to do. Put in the Type R engine as it is. It passes all emissions regulations, etc., and make it a S400, S4000, S3000, whatever you want to name it. But I think it'll be really cool to have a rear-wheel drive setup for a future Honda S2000, and having that chassis from Nissan will really help that happen. It's too expensive to develop a new chassis just for the S2000. They're not going to do it right now. But if they already have a chassis made, they can throw in a Honda engine like we all love, and it'll make for a great combination. Then they have the GTR. The Nissan GTR, I mean, say what you want, that is a Godzilla. Since the early 90s, late 80s, early 90s, the Nissan GTR stood out as the best sports car in the world when it comes to winning races, when it comes to performance. The all-wheel drive system is amazing. The inline sixes and the V6s they used, the turbocharged engines, also really great engines. And I think it would be cool if Honda took the Nissan GTR and took the NSX drivetrain, the current NSX, or I guess we're not making it anymore, but the last generation NSX, which is a hybrid all-wheel drive V6 twin turbo setup, stuck it into a Nissan GTR and continue the GTR name. I think that'll be a really cool addition to us for us enthusiasts, and it'll be a supercar for Nissan, and it'll use Honda's engineering, which I'm a very big fan of. Finally, I think probably the real reason why this merger is even happening at all is because Honda needs help with his electrification process. Unfortunately, the world has decided to vote on governments that force companies to go electric. And the more and more you vote these people in, the more we're going to be forced to make vehicles all electric. And that's fine. It is what it is. We can figure it out. But they sell the Nissan Ariya here. They had the Nissan Leaf as well, 2 electric vehicles that Honda didn't have. Right now, Honda sells the Honda Prologue, the first electric car that Honda made, and it's made by Chevy. So I think this would be a better way to go. And finally, the Infiniti brand. Now, there's only really one Infiniti that I would count on, and that's the Infiniti Q50. A proper rear-wheel drive setup for Honda would be amazing. We'd have a rear-wheel drive, let's say a flagship rear-wheel drive Acura vehicle for once. Maybe call it the Acura RL, or better yet, call it the Acura Legend. Put in a twin-turbo V6 from Infiniti, because I don't think the J series is doing it for anybody. It's great for a front wheel drive setup. My wife's Pilot has a J35 in it. It's great. It's a really good engine. But Infiniti does a better job with the V6 engines, and that's a big part of what Honda's missing. It's the VQ engine. I mean, this what we're looking at here. This is from Nissan itself. This is the VR engine from the Nissan GTR. It's a very similar engine to the VQ, and it's the V6. Nissan has developed the V6 engine way more than Honda has developed the V6 engine. I think getting a Nissan V6 into many of Honda's vehicles and just using the V6 that we all know and love, from the GTR's V6 to the the Infiniti V6s, put them into the Acura lineup. I would love to see an Acura Legend with a VQ in it. Let me know in the comments if you think that's crazy, but I think Nissan does the best V6 engines in the world. They specialize in it, and so they're good at it. I love my wife's V6 very much, the J35. I love the J series very much, but the VQ from Nissan, it just beats it. Finally, here we're looking at the Nissan Qashqai, and we don't see that in America. That's sold in Europe, and unfortunately, Honda's not selling too well in Europe for whatever reason. Probably because Honda is catering a lot to America, the United States. Honda vehicles just aren't selling well enough in Europe, and the sales have declined. Nissan brings over a lot of good sales in Europe, so we have market share that Honda could gain by selling Honda vehicles through Nissan, maybe a rebadge Honda or two, through Nissan dealerships in Europe, and gain some market share that way. So that's another way Honda would benefit from this Nissan merger. Finally, let's touch on the Mitsubishi, because Mitsubishi is a brand that we all forget about. But the Mitsubishi Evos, from the Evo 1 all the way through the Evo 10, and that all-wheel drive Evo, I would love to see a comeback. Possibly take that Infiniti Q50 chassis, throw in a Honda engine, maybe a 4-cylinder turbo, and put in the amazing GTR all-wheel drive system, call it a Mitsubishi Evo. That collaboration would sell like hotcakes. Enthusiasts would love the hell out of it. Another thing they can do is they can bring back the Montero. The Mitsubishi Montero was a legendary nameplate for off-road vehicles. They have the Outlanders and the Outlanders PHEVs and whatever. Their current lineup kind of sucks. And so if we can get legends from the past, get the Eclipse, the actual Eclipse, sports car, not the current Eclipse Cross that we have. I mean, we have this abomination of Eclipse. It's not an Eclipse. This is terrible. But get an actual Eclipse going. Take a Civic chassis, make it nice and svelte, make it a nice front wheel drive, nice big 2-liter turbo engine, possibly. Hey, maybe get the upcoming Prelude, rebadge it as a Eclipse, and maybe put some Mitsubishi flair on it, maybe a Mitsubishi all-wheel drive system. Who knows? And yeah, that would be pretty cool to see Mitsubishi, do more things with Honda and Nissan technology. And so, that's pretty much the things that Honda would gain. There's a lot to be gained here. There's market share, there's technologies, there's models that Honda doesn't have. And I think it'll be a good thing for Honda. Now, I know that the Japanese government is pushing for this to happen, and Honda may not be all 100% on board, but I think Honda would still benefit from all of this. And it's not just Honda benefiting. I think the consumer benefits from this, because we don't lose all the engineering and effort and time that was put into developing Mitsubishi and Nissan vehicles. Obviously we can do away with the Nissan Altima, the Nissan Versa, we can do away with the Maxima. I think that's gone anyway. There's a lot of, like the Nissan Rogue, for example. We can just throw all of those away and replace them with Honda models because they're just better. But there's things that Honda would have, like the Armada, like the pickup trucks, the body-on-frame pickup trucks. Maybe Honda can revive an old V8 from Nissan, and that rear-wheel drive chassis from Infiniti would be amazing. So that's my conclusion, guys. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Let me know if you think I'm crazy. I usually am, but I'd be happy to see what the commenters say about this. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll catch you next time. Peace.